Hi everyone, and welcome to the book Refuge. And today I'm doing a trope that is only recently a big favorite of mine, and I'm actually kind of molding two together. So I have second chance romances mixed with kind of marriage in trouble, because I find a lot of times when it's a second chance, like when it's a marriage in trouble, that it's usually the romance aspect that needs to be rebooted again. So I actually have three of these books that are marriage in trouble morphed with a, second chance romance. And I'm very excited. And I actually want to start out with the historical romances that I have for this, because I've just read a few and I am in love with them. So the first one I want to talk about is Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage by Jennifer Ashley. I listened to this recently on all of Jennifer's Highland books are in Audible Escape, and I've just recently got Audible Escape, and I love the narrator for this series, and it just makes me so happy. So this book is about Lady Isabella Mackenzie and her husband, Mac Mackenzie, who have been estranged for the last 3 years. They got married in this very scandalous way of, at her coming out ball at 18 years old, she met Mac, they danced, they laughed, he eloped with her. He got her to come away with him, married her that night, bedded her that night, and took her on a whirlwind beginning of a marriage. Mac is a painter, he's an artist, he's a lover, he is just a beautiful man. Like, he is. He's wonderful. But at the time that they're together, he's an alcoholic. And he will go through these, like, maudlin periods, and then they would fight, and then he would run away, and he would stay away for a while, and then come back later on. And it slowly broke Isabella. And the final straw was that Isabella had a miscarriage, and Mac was away painting. And when he came back, he was drunk, and she just couldn't take it anymore. She loves him, but she was like, I need time away from you. Maybe we'll get back together, maybe we won't, but for now, I can't be around you. And so Mac, he takes that as a wake-up call, and he goes to work about getting sober. And that is a huge soft spot for me. I've mentioned it before. I actually have one other book in here that also has someone who's a former alcoholic in it. And I loved how, like, for Mac, this took years. At the point we're at now, they've been separated 3 years. They were married 3 years. They've been separated 3 years. They're still technically married, but she did ask for a legal separation, which Mac let her do, which he didn't have to let her do. He could have either forced her to stay with him or divorced her, which would have ruined her life. But he knew that he was the cause of a lot of her unhappiness, and he didn't want anyone else anyway. So he let her have the legal separation, and he still let her have access to all his money, and his family loves her. So they were literally just like separated, and she lived her life and he lived his. And we've reached the nexus point where we've seen them start to interact in the first book in this series, which is The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie, which I freaking love that book too. And Mac is ready to initiate the sequence to get his wife back. And he's ready to go on a wooing campaign that will not be ended quickly. So I love this couple. I love Mac. I love seeing the changes he's made. I love him trying to get Isabella to see that he didn't just give up drinking. He changed the way that he thinks about things, the way that he views her. He's changed it. She isn't just a toy to him, something pretty that he was able to win. Like, he realizes how bad he messed up, and he grovels. And the thing I love about a marriage in trouble or secondhand romance is when there's groveling involved. And Mac is going to grovel. It's so good. The next one I want to talk about is book 4 in this series, in the same series. So that's book 2 in the series. This is book 4, and it's called The Duke's Perfect Wife. And in this book, we're talking about the oldest Mackenzie, who, his name is Hart Mackenzie, and he's on the road to be prime minister. And 10 years ago, he was, still is in fact, in love with Lady Eleanor. And he was actually engaged to her, but he took it for granted. And he had mistresses at that time. He definitely wanted to marry Eleanor, and he was planning to give those things up when he married her. But his mistress at the time, she met Eleanor and really liked her. And Hart, like all the Mackenzies had really shitty growing up. Like, it's a huge part of the storyline in the books. Why they're so dark and have like different desires is because their dad tortured them. Like, it was horrible. And Hart is into BDSM. And so he has a house that literally he owns where people can go to do that. He's not quite a pimp, but he like owns the premise. And his mistress, she ends up running it later. She becomes the madam of the place, basically. But she felt bad for Eleanor because Eleanor was such a sweet woman, and she, like, partly she did it to get back at Hart, but also she does think that Eleanor is a nice young woman, and she doesn't want her shackled to someone like Hart, who had all these twisted, dark desires, which it turns out to Eleanor, when she breaks off their engagement, throws the ring back in his face, tells him, it isn't the fact that you're into those things. Like, I've heard about that. I'm interested in them. I would like to see them with you. It's the fact that you would treat your mistress this way, and that you would treat her like you treat her, and you're going to treat me like a lady. And I tell you guys, I fucking cried. The fact that Eleanor is able, in the time period she's in, to realize there's no difference between us but what society says. And if you're willing to go with what society says, I can't be with you. That you would treat a woman who loves you. Your mistress loves you. If you would treat her that way and then give flowers to me, you're not the man that I want to be with. And she throws his ring in his face and leaves. But in the time period we're dealing now, Hart plans to win Eleanor back. It's been 10 years. He has married another woman and she's died, and his mistress has died in this time. He's a broken man, but he's on his way to be prime minister. And something happens where Eleanor gets sent some naughty pictures of Hart. So Hart and Mrs. Palmer, his mistress, used to take boudoir photos, and they get sent to Eleanor. And so Eleanor is like, oh my God, someone's trying to blackmail you. So she rushes to London after living in the backwater, basically, with her father in Scotland. She rushes to London she wants to investigate this for Hart. And Hart doesn't want her to investigate this, but he doesn't want her to leave because he really wants to get back with Eleanor. So he allows her to be his detective. And it goes from there. This book made me cry so many times. Hart's been through so much. He's such a different person from the last time. And so is Eleanor. But everyone loves Eleanor. And she's just so great. Like, I'm going to cry. I love her so much. So good. Next, I got to talk about, again, The Magic, which is the second book that one of the men in here, he's an alcoholic. And to win his lady, he has to give it up. But this is mostly about Lady Aline and John McKenna, who they were in love when they were very young. She is the daughter of the Lord, and he was the stable boy. And to save him from her father, who was going to make sure he ended up in prison, she had to break up with him. And John believed her that she was breaking up with him. And so he went to America to make his fortune. And now he's back to win her and leave her. So he basically wants to seduce her, sex her up, and leave. And Aline, who has wanted no one but John all these years, is ready to let him do it. It's so good. I love this book. I love this book so much. So, that's all I'll say about that one. Then I want to talk about Pipe Dreams by Serena Bowen. This is book 3 in the Brooklyn Bruiser series. These ones are all standalones. This is a hockey romance. This is about Mike Beacon, who is a goalie, and him and Lauren were in love with each other. I think it's 5 years ago for them. Or 3, let me see. I'm not sure how many years ago it was. But they were going to be together. He was getting divorced from his wife, and he was going to be with Lauren, and they were so much in love, and it was adorable, and they were planning on starting a family together once he divorced his wife. And then Mike finds out his wife has cancer, and he has a daughter with this woman, and he just can't leave her. And so he has to break up with Lauren and go back to his wife, who's dying. And oh my God, it's so heartbreaking. And so now we're a few years later. Mike's wife has died, and him and Lauren are back with the same team. She is the she's helping manage the team for the billionaire. I can't remember his name right now, Nate. And when Becca is sick with the concussion she gets, Mike and Lauren are put in proximity together, and Mike goes about trying to win her back and explain everything that happened and go from there. And it's so good. This book hurts me. Then I'll just really quickly talk about one that y'all were probably expecting me to do, and that is the Bromance Book Club. This is another marriage in trouble. Oh no, someone's mowing the lawn. One second. This guy, Travis, finds out that Gavin finds out that his wife has been faking orgasms almost the entire time that they've been together. And they are on the point of divorce, not just because of orgasms, but a big part of it. And his teammates rope him into their bromance book club, where they read historical novels and other romance novels to find out how to woo their women. And so it's adorable. So he's able to get his wife to agree to a stay of divorce and to convince her to give him another chance because he's sorry that he messed up. Also, another one you're probably expecting, Love Her or Lose Her. This is another marriage in trouble. This is a case of miscommunication and not knowing each other's love languages. And this is Rosie and Dominic. And lots of people don't like Dominic because they say he's too domineering and alpha. And I say, you've been reading too many mainstream books, my love, because Dominic is everything that I like. He is a grumpy ex-soldier. His wife has dreams and plans, and Dominic never asks her about them. So she is ready to take her destiny by the horns and kick Dominic to the curb if he, they have a standing sex date and they have really great sex. Sex is not the problem with this couple, but there's no, she's feeling very unloved and neglected because Dominic never, asks her about herself or tries to, know anything about her. And Dominic doesn't realize that things haven't been good. And he's been loving her very quietly, and he needs to be a little more out loud with it. And I love this book. It's still one of my favorites from this year. It's so good. Then I want to talk about Unbreakable by Melanie Harlow. So this is actually a second chance romance where it's not a second chance for them with each other. It's actually a second chance for both of them as people. So here we have Henry, who he runs kind of the winery at Cloverleaf Farms. This is the 4th book out of 5 in the Cloverleaf series. This is about the oldest daughter, what's her name? I just forgot it. Hold on. Sylvia. And so both Sylvia and Henry have recently gotten divorced. So it's a second chance for both of them. It's mowing the lawn right out there. It's a second chance for both of them in life, but this is the first time they've ever been together. So I just really like that because it was a second chance at life for both of them. She has 3 kids. He has wanted kids. She has 2 kids. He has wanted kids. The reason him and his wife got divorced was basically because they couldn't have kids, and it was a struggle. And these two, it's so cute. Cloverleaf Farm books are just so sweet, but yet sexy and adorable. And I love these two together. I always love how the relationships start in Melanie's books, and I just really, really love this one. And I didn't think I would love Sylvia the way that I did. And then I read her book, and do. I love Sylvia. And then the last book I want to talk about is The Beast by Katie Robert. So this is a second chance romance, and it's fabulous. So we had Isabel, who dated both Beast and Gaston. She was dating them at the same time, and they were kind of competing for her. And then both of their relationships got broken up, and both of these men moved away from, like, her family because they, like, worked for her father, and neither of them were, like, getting the relationship that they needed. And when Isabel needs to bring them back to help out at her in her family business, this whole setup of this series, like, there's a whole setup to it that's, like, hard to just, like, explain it easily. But they enter into this deal that she will be both of their submissives for 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks, she'll pick one of them to be with, and that'll be the end of it. Well, things go down a little bit differently than that, but this is a second chance for all three of them. Spoiler, this is a menage story, and Katie Robert writes menage better than, like, that's the first thing I ever read of hers was a menage, and she does it so good. She does it so good. The next book in the series is going to be a menage as well, but it'll be a female-male, and I'm really excited to see how that goes. But this is a second chance romance, and it's amazing. So, there you go. There are some second chance romances for you, all varying steam, genre, and situation, and I hope that you'll give some of them a try. If you'd like to buy any of these, I have them in a list on my Amazon storefront. If you want to check it out, you can always check out that link down below. I get a small commission if you choose to buy any of them. But otherwise, I put up 3 to 4 videos a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye!